Okay, good morning or hello. My name is Inge Nickel and I'm the director of the Brazelton Centre in the UK. And I'm here very excited today to have a chat with Jessima, who is a midwife, and she uses the newborn behavioural observation in her work. So part of this week, thinking about how babies communicate from birth, I can't really think about somebody who's more appropriate to talk to. So Jessima, would you kindly just introduce yourself?
So my name's Jessima. I've been a midwife for over 10 years at a busy London hospital, and I'm fairly new to the Brazelton technique. I trained last year, but I want to talk a little bit today about how I've managed to incorporate it into my practice and how it's transformed my practice for the better, really. I'm really excited to be a part of the Baby Communication Week.
Yeah, thank you, Jessima. That sounds great. So I guess one of the first things to think about is, well, how do babies communicate right from birth? What are the sort of things as a midwife that you notice, and what's the kind of conversations that you have with parents about how they can read their babies?
So, I mean, babies are born primed, ready to socially interact, and they're actually active participants in the labour process. So they're not just kind of docile and then they come out and then start to communicate. Their hearing is actually fully developed from 28 weeks in the womb. And so this gives us a unique opportunity to start building a bond and communicating. I always encourage my ladies to talk to their bump and to speak and sing to their baby. And then when they are born, they are primed and ready to socially interact. So what normally happens, whether you've given birth in a labour room or in the theatre after a cesarean, the baby is put immediately skin to skin as soon as possible. Now, this is a beautiful time to see the baby does this initial birth cry, and the baby's placed on mum's chest, and because the baby is used to the sound of mum's heartbeat and mum's voice, it's beautiful to watch how the baby is instantly comforted by this initial skin to skin. And if left long enough there undisturbed, the baby will then start to look around and will be naturally primed to seek out mum's face and voice and make eye to eye contact. And this can really be a really beautiful thing to say to the parents: look, your baby already knows you, and look how they have just settled down by being on your chest and hearing the sound of your voice. So that would probably be the first thing. And then obviously what happens, the long enough baby is left in skin to skin, the baby is then going to start to display some feeding cues. Now, feeding cues are obviously the baby's way of letting you know that they are hungry. And I think through kind of media and film, the crying baby has been portrayed as the hungry baby. And so learning that the baby is going to offer some subtle kind of behavioural cues to let the parents know that they are hungry, this is a perfect opportunity to again explore this with parents in this first instance, as the baby's making all of these kind of cognitive processes to make its way up the breast. So the subtle feeding cues with the baby trying to organise their body to get their hands up to their mouth, and then performing something called the breast crawl, which is amazing again to explore how strong babies are and their capabilities, that they're able to use their arms and legs to coordinate to start making their way up towards the food source, which is just amazing.
So I mean, just listening to what you're saying, it's so clear just how well babies communicate right from the moment that they're born, and even that kind of skin to skin and the calming, actually letting the parents know this is just what I need. But yeah, absolutely, they are amazing, aren't they? But we know that, so we just want everybody else to know that too. So tell me a little bit about your newborn behavioural observations, so MBO journey.
So I actually won the bursary back in December 2021 because I'd always been kind of curious about the Brazelton, but never really knew enough about it, because I think that in day-to-day practice in maternity, and I mean, I'm shocked that it's not in there more, but it's not kind of common knowledge. I think it's getting a little bit more mainstream now and kind of incorporating in. But I won the bursary, and then I set about kind of transforming my practice and incorporating these things. And I actually found that whilst on the training, a lot of these things we do already, but being able to put the kind of theory behind it and actually being able to explain to the parents by watching the baby that, you know, this is what your baby is trying to tell you. So it's just really a beautiful tool that can be incorporated into this really crucial period of rapid growth and change. So it's fantastic.
Yeah. So do you feel, can you think about some examples of how you use the embo, and how early do you use it with families?
So you can use right from birth, like I said, you know, in the labour room. But if we think about different opportunities of time you can, I mean, I teach antenatal classes. And I think that now, having the background from the Brazelton, teaching parents about realistic expectations about newborn behaviours, about feeding cues, about sleep states and things. These things can all be embedded even before the baby is here, so they've got an idea. But then, I mean, even in the labour room, you're in a unique period. You're with somebody for 12 hours. Baby isn't physically here yet, but you can start the kind of conversation going about baby's name and about the kind of whole pregnancy journey, and get to know the kind of parents' story up until that point, really. And then obviously the most hands-on is as soon as the baby is born. So there are ample opportunities to incorporate the ENBO in. I would say that I rarely use the full 18 stage process. And I think this is just because it's snapshots of different wards that you're on, or different times in the life that you're meeting the baby. But I think even if you only manage to do 1 or 2 or 3 even observations, they can still be really crucial learning points for new parents. So if we take, even for instance, a nappy change, it's a highly stimulating process for a baby, and they have to kind of organise themselves. They're suddenly cold and they feel quite vulnerable. And so the baby will start to communicate the level of intervention that it needs. And it might be that, you know, we need to have warm water. It might be simply just by talking and looking at our baby that the baby is then comforted. But it gives us clues that we can then go through with the parents and say, look, I think that maybe this is a kind of 2-man job, and one of you comfort baby and the other do the nappy change, because we become quite task orientated. And I think people forget to speak to the baby, but that is bringing it always back to the voice and eye contact with the baby is the majority of times it's going to comfort and soothe baby, because it's the most reassuring and familiar sound to them.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it is incredible how powerful that voice is. And as you said, baby's been listening to those voices for a long time. So they are the most reassuring thing. Can you tell a little bit about what parents think about this way of working and looking at the baby together and thinking about what is this little one telling us?
So it's really helped me to kind of personalize my practice, because you go around and you're doing your daily checks on the baby, and you're kind of doing temperature kind of observations, and then asking about kind of wheeze and poos and feeds. But it's never really kind of personalized. So you don't really get, the parents don't get much out of that interaction. They get, and everybody wants to know that, you know, all of the observations are normal and the baby is happy. But incorporating this in allows you to say, look, come and sit with me and look what your baby is doing, and have a listen to what they are trying to tell you, and then working with the parents to try and interpret what the baby is already saying. And the parents already know way more about the baby than when you meet them, because, you know, if you meet the crying baby, for instance, at 2 o'clock in the morning on the postnatal ward, the parents are normally quite often able to tell you, well, she does like to be rocked, or she does prefer to be held, and they start to get an understanding. But I think parents really benefit from having a wider understanding of how intelligent their baby is really, and how unique their baby is, and that no one baby is saying the same thing to their parent. And I think that is the true beauty of it, is giving the baby a voice and individualizing care, so they have some take-home messages or some things that they can begin to incorporate into making life work for life with their new baby, as opposed to just reading a manual.
Yes, and that is exactly what one of the things that Kevin Newton always said, who obviously developed the embo. He said, but babies do come with a manual. You just have to read it, and it's right there in front of you. And what a beautiful thing to be able to say when you are actually working with parents right from the beginning, when they first meet their babies, to really encourage them to read their babies and look at them.
Another thing that really works well is we have something called a NIPE examination, and this is a kind of physical MOT, as you were, of baby within the first 72 hours of birth, which goes through a set of kind of assessments, as it were, to check for any kind of abnormalities almost with the baby. And again, this is also great. Parents love to know that their baby can do this and this, A, B and C. But I think that there is a real place for the Brazelton embo. It fits very well, so it complements the NIPE very well. And actually some of the things that we're looking for actually overlap. And so I think if more midwives, neonatal nurses and doctors got on board and were trained in the embo, it would help to personalize this NIPE, which can be quite highly stimulating for the baby. And it gives the parents then a take-home message, again, something that is individualized about their baby. We could even just add on the little slip at the end with a few different things about the baby, so that it's not just another tick box exercise. They have some real take-home messages about their baby's individuality.
I think that would be a wonderful idea. And like you say, it not only just reassures the parents that they have a healthy baby, but also that they're taking a little person home.
Yeah.
Like you're saying. Jessima, absolutely fantastic. Any kind of last message out there to anybody who's listening, who might be working in neonatal midwifery area?
The Brazelton website itself has got tons of beautiful resources and videos and leaflets. It's a really good starting point to have a look. And I would urge all of my colleagues and any kind of expectant parents to start as a starting point to check that out, because I think getting your head around how something new could fit into your practice, we get kind of a little bit stuck in our ways, but actually this will help to transform practice and will help us to help people become better parents ultimately. I see that it has a real place in working with anybody from vulnerable communities, people who are kind of on child protection plans or have any vulnerabilities. I think that incorporating this into mother and baby unit assessments and helping these vulnerable women can be really, really beneficial. But equally, just myself, I've been a midwife for 10 years and it has genuinely transformed the way that I offer care, and just to pause and really watch the baby and then bring the parents into that, because the baby is telling us so much. Like you said, it has got the instruction manual, and it's a key for us to then be able to unravel what exactly this baby is trying to tell you. And I would encourage, I'm always talking to all my colleagues about how amazing it is. And I do think that it definitely has a place in the wider kind of multidisciplinary team within midwifery. And if we're all singing from the same song sheet, it will surely benefit more mothers and parents and babies along the way.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jessima. And embo can be used for any professionals who work with babies from birth to 3 months. And like you said, it's also a wonderful sort of approach to use even antenatally when you're having a conversation with with parents to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jessima, for talking to us today. It's great to have midwives on board. You are definitely the people who welcome these little babies into the world. So that's really great. So thank you very much. And to everybody who's listening, don't forget to listen to all the other talks. They're all recorded, so you can find them on our website. And they'll also be put onto our YouTube channel. And we've got another one tomorrow. So please log in and have a listen to how babies communicate from birth. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.